Thank you for joining us for this North Metro TV 2018 Local Decision Program. I'm Ben Hale, and I'm joined by Adam Davis, who's running for Anoka County Commissioner in District 4. Adam, first of all, thanks for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to just kind of get right into it. And I just want to, first question is just simple. Why did you decide to run for this seat, run for office?
Well, I thought it was something that was important enough to seriously consider. Last time I ran for office was actually 12 years ago. I ran for Minnesota State House, and since then I've been helping various candidates in my community, from campaign manager on down in various roles. And when Jim Kordiak decided to retire after 32 years, that was something that wasn't really on the radar, but we kind of looked at that, and my wife and I talked about, we prayed about it, and we're just like, this was something that I could do, and another way to help my community out. And I had a lot of community members that had asked me as well, and so that helped me as well to decide to run for office at this time.
So you've been, sounds like you've been involved in politics in a few different capacities over the years. So you probably know it's not the easiest thing to do or jump into. Why is this politics, public service, why is this the way that you want to serve your community?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know, it's just been a passion of mine. I love to be able to get into those issues and to be able to debate, but more importantly, to try to resolve, try to find common ground. And in Columbia Heights, one of the things that I'm known for is being able to reach out to both sides of the aisle, and to when they need somebody to help out and to find a solution, they'll often come to me, and I'm kind of that intermediary, being that for so many people it's just gotten too partisan to be able to even approach at this point. And so I think that's something that's really important, especially for a nonpartisan race like this.
What are your most important issues as you look at Anoka County? What are things that for you are at the top of the list issue-wise?
Well, I think the top of the list would have to be property taxes. It's by far the one thing that I've heard from residents and throughout the community, is that their property taxes have increased double digits in many, many cases. And normally with ad valorem taxes, you see, well, this neighborhood might have gone up, but then this neighborhood kind of evened out. And we're not seeing so much of that right now. The other half of that is that I have a lot of people in my district that simply can't afford to pay more, even if they wanted to. They are on a fixed income, or they are living check to check, and so it's something that that's of a great concern for them. I guess another issue would be transportation, just to be able to find ways to make sure that our commerce, our businesses are flourishing. Right now, we have a lot of congestion on 65, on 10, as you probably know, here in Blaine. And we just want to be able to find ways to, without spending a lot more money, but just creative ways to be able to do that. A couple other my priorities I just wanted to look at are areas of mental health and the juvenile justice system, and seeing any improvements we can make. And a lot of that stuff, is structural. We're looking at ways to be more efficient with the money that we do have. So the first goal here is to find ways to be more efficient with the money that we do have, rather than asking the taxpayers, oh, well, here's another increase for you that you can't afford.
When it comes to property taxes, are you specifically looking, I mean, if you're hearing from a lot of people that that's a problem, I assume you're looking into ways to reduce that burden on homeowners. There's only, usually a few ways to do that. It's either, cutting taxes overall or looking to increase commercial tax bases. Where are you, if you want to address the issue of property taxes, how would you go about doing that as a county commissioner?
Well, I think there's a couple ways that I can do that. One is when we talk about the county level, we're talking about assessments. The cities that we have there, they use the county to be able to assess the market value of the properties. And they tend to only do that, say, once every 5 years, and then you end up having sticker shock because suddenly it goes up. And especially after the recession we've had, there's been especially large increases following that as the market rebounds. I think it's especially been harder on the residential because the commercial sector has not rebounded in the same way, so it's kind of gone disproportionately that way. So what I would look at there is to find ways where we can spread out that rather than having it where it just shoots up once every 5 years like that. Can we spread that burden out a little bit more? That's part of that. The second part, and rather than saying, well, let's get a rebate, well, you have to pay for it and with interest, and maybe I'll give you a rebate at the state level later on. Let's see if we can deal with the actual issue right head on instead of after the fact. The other thing you talked about, the commercial base. We have in my district an interstate highway and 2 state highways going through it. And I think that it's real important that we find ways to be able to attract more businesses so that rather than necessarily, you talked about increasing taxes on commercial, well, let's make the pie bigger. Let's bring more businesses to Columbia Heights and Hilltop and Fridley and Spring Lake Park. And that way, because there are more businesses, there is more tax base, they'll be able to share the taxes that need to be paid, and I think that's the best way to go about that.
How can a new person bring? We talked about this seat is open for the first time in a really long time.
64 years.
How can a new person bring a new voice to the southern part of the county? That sometimes Blaine, Coon Rapids get a lot of attention as the biggest cities in the county. How can a new person bring a new voice to the southern part of the county, especially in District 4?
Well, I think it's in a certain way it's an inevitability because no matter who gets elected, it will be a new voice. But I think that I'm uniquely qualified in that I can use the community involvement that I've had, the experience I've had as a small business owner. I'm a private music teacher, and I teach piano and voice and drums, and I go to the students' homes, and and I deal with the issues that small businesses deal with, all the regulations and all the things all the hoops that they have to go through. I deal with the community, with all the groups that I am part of. I think that as someone who's been a lifelong resident of Columbia Heights, it's just something that is a huge passion of mine, and just something that someone who maybe a little bit newer or hasn't been paying attention for the number of years. My other job is at the City of Columbia Heights, and why that's significant is that I record the City Council meetings, I record the Planning Commission meetings, and as part of that I have a packet, and I go through it much like a council member or a mayor would already, and try to figure out what's important to show the public, and then put the graphics up and do all of the production work that's involved with that. So I've literally been at every single meeting since 2000. And so I do have a unique background in being able to understand a lot of the details, the nuts and bolts that happen in government. So,
if you were elected, you're sitting there, you're at the county board seat, and you're what what would you want to get done first? What's the first thing you'd want to accomplish as a county board member?
Well, I want to learn as much as I can from the people that are currently, doing the day-to-day work at the county level. And the reason I say that is because I'm also a humble person. I don't want to make assumptions that I know everything. I feel like I do have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, but at the same time, specifically in that fishbowl, if you will, for the county, I'd want to find out what's going on specifics to how they're doing that. I'd want to be able to take what I've expressed earlier with the property taxes, with some of the other things, and see if I can find some ways to make those concerns that the residents have, and find solutions for those in the best way I can. Whether that means working within the county level, working with cities, working upwards to the state. As with the county budget, it's a $300 million budget, but $200 million comes from state and federal sources. So there's a lot of hoops and things that come from that. And so in order to deal with a lot of those county issues and make changes, you need to work with those levels of government as well.
One thing you mentioned was transportation. What do you feel, where are the spots that you would focus on from a county standpoint for transportation?
Well, I was impressed that the county board, for instance, had addressed Highway 10 and put some improvements forward, kind of to help bring it to the top of the list for MnDOT by providing some money for startup for instance, the Highway 10 interchange at Armstrong Boulevard. And just some of those spot improvements that you can get where you just have these choke points where you really have lots of congestion. So I'd be looking at things like in Blaine, for instance, 109th and Highway 65. I think that's a big choke point that whether you're just passing through or it's a part of the area that you cover, it's just a really tough area. The third lane, for instance, on Highway 10, each direction through Coon Rapids into Anoka, that would be something that would be, something that would be nice to be able to get advanced. Each of those things obviously take money, but if you can look at it on a longer-term basis, you can always, be able to approach that on a long-term basis. I had mentioned an interview I had earlier that some of the county roads, for instance, in Columbia Heights, I'd like to kind of look at being able to reallocate, some of those. For instance, we have County Road 2 that goes on 40th. Well, what about putting it on 37th, for instance? Because it's a more higher traveled road. It's the only one that goes all the way into Ramsey County, all the way to the 35W, and it's severely in need of repair. And so as county commissioner, it's something that I could bring to the forefront and say, hey, this is a priority. This is something that is not just of city importance, but of a county and of a greater regional importance. Okay. And so those are things that I would be looking at.
In our last minute or so here, if someone came up to you and just said, Adam, why should I vote for you? What would you tell them?
Well, I think I would mention a lot of the things that I've already said there. I think that what I would want the voters to know that in whatever I do, I will tell it to you straight. I'll tell you it honestly, and I will do my best to try to represent them and their concerns as in the best way that I'm able to. So, I want to be there for them and address those concerns, because that's, the people are the ones that are wanting me to represent them. So.
And how can people reach out to you, connect with you throughout this campaign? How can they get in touch with you if they have more questions or want to learn something more from you?
Well, they can go onto Facebook, Adam for Anoka, or Adam Davis for Anoka County Commissioner. The website, Adam for Anoka, will be on shortly here. You can reach me with adamfornoka@gmail.com, or you can just check out any of those, and I would be glad to talk with you and try to hear whatever concerns that you might have.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing some of your, letting us get to know you a little bit more and sharing some of your opinions with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward to the forum on Wednesday as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to remind you can always head to northmetrotv.com for complete local decision coverage. It's all on there. We have more spotlights like this there, as well as candidate biographies. You can also check out any of these on our YouTube channel. Just head to YouTube and search for northmetrotv.com, or excuse me, North Metro TV. It'll all be there for you as well. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Ben Hale. We'll see you next time.